of, and I think we need audio. Let's try that again. Audio? All right, I think we're good. Okay, so welcome to Charts and Coffee, gang. Sound should be good. Yeah, nothing like turning the microphone on a Monday. So great to see you all. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. We're kicking everything off with the economic calendar here today. And the reason for that is take a look, just simply today, Monday the 22nd, 9 a.m. right now, we've got the ECB, we've got the FOMC in terms of different speakers. We've got existing home sales at 10 a.m. And look, home sales have been a key part of what I think is going to continue to be a exciting ITB XHB story on the ETF side of things. And then we've got FOMC, Barkin, Daly, Quarles, Bowman. Who's not invited to FOMC Palooza? And this just keeps on going, whether that be the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England, more central bank speak. Chairman Powell's going to testify. You see here, along with Janet Yellen on the CARES Act. Gang, it is just going to be, and then as if that isn't enough, we've got then the, Gladys Knight and the Pips. Then we got Brainerd Williams. Oh my gosh. So, and that's just Monday and Tuesday. So just heads up for the kind of kickoff we're going to have for the week. Second day of testimony on Wednesday. And as a general rule, gang, I don't like to be short in front of Powell. As a general rule, I don't like to. Doesn't mean that's just an automatic buy, but that's definitely something that I like to focus in on. All right, so this is a quick peek at what's going on with the Dow. Slight minor low to kick off this Monday. The market may be a little hesitant to do too much, although again, I would think for the most part, we'd see some bullish action. Where are we going to see the bullish action, right? Because something we talk about here in Charts and Coffee is it's more important what you trade than how you trade it. Counterintuitive, but true. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick this off with the first question we have here. And that is, good morning. Could you review crude oil? Sure, you got it. Yeah, let's take a look at crude. Okay, so jumping on over into the CL contract. Now, of course, remember with crude, and this is a narrative that I love, crude got absolutely whacked, as you can see right here. I don't say that arbitrarily. There's certain things that are pet peeves for us, right? One of them is, oh, a market tanked or it's melting down. That verbiage really should be reserved for when the market has done something unusual compared to its typical price movement range, or what we call the daily price movement range. So actually, both in the Simpler Futures room and in the Sector Secrets Mastery, which, by the way, we have our live trading in Sector Secrets Mastery today. So for those of you that are in those crude oil and oil stocks with me, we're in different copper positions. In the futures room, we're actually in copper. And so we're going to cover all those positions we've had since the 25th of February. So the end of February, when we got that February volatility, we actually engaged a few XHB, ITB-esque stocks. We actually went with Toll and KBH. And those were really nice trades for us. Since then, we've actually had a total of 19 different trades. So we've been pretty active since that February volatility. And the reason we've been able to is kind of the current issue of the Countdown Trader, which you can catch at countdowntrader.com. And that is where we're not looking. Where aren't we looking? In other words, am I fixated on the NASDAQ? No way. QQQ, NQ, especially when it comes to the NASDAQ. Remember that we can break that NASDAQ up into, of course, QQQ, but that's the same narrative as NQ. But we can break it up into XLK, XLC, and XLY. And then we can even break it up even further, getting into your CLOU, SKYY, SMH. That's 6 ways, that we can break the NASDAQ up looking for relative outperformance. And what I still see a lot of traders doing, especially in the NAS, which there's very little reason right now to do that, is still looking at the NAS broadly instead of getting more granular to the individual sector or even the individual stock, right? So those are things that we're looking at in Sector Secrets. Crude oil, very similar narrative. So there's crude oil market, we've got USO, we've got UGA, which is unleaded gas and gasoline. And then we've got our oil stocks, oil services, explorers, and then the General Energy Select SPDR. And then we've got the individual stocks in that as well. So what I'm really trying to explain is that whole idea of what we're not looking at. And I think a basic way to put that is we're not looking broadly. So CL, bullish, absolutely. I like CL. Here's the thing to remember, though, when it comes to crude oil right now. And that is we've got OPEC coming up on April 1. So if you recall the last OPEC meeting, what happened there is they basically didn't bother to agree to whether or not they would increase output. So what does that mean? That means that the market's still waiting with bated breath to find out if at current prices and what seems to be increasing demand. I look at that, the precursor to that, by the way, a little tip for those of you that want to look at a precursor to demand is you look at traffic data, which is available through I actually use something called TomTom. You can do that for free. So those are slight precursors to what could be increased demand. If they're seeing demand increasing, then they might actually increase output, which would create another little bearish move in crude. So keep an eye on that for April 1. But other than that, upward and onward for crude there. Next up, in terms of our questions here, and thank you so much for being part of our Charts and Coffee crew. It's a perfect complement to that question. Nick has a question. Is crude driving my plays on XLE? Of course. Absolutely. And its components, or do you trade them on their own charts merits? Well, yes and yes, Nick. Yes and yes. So if I like crude, let's just take a look at USO to now view the ETF version of this narrative. So do we think, let's start with explorers. Explorers requires investment and cost because, well, oil and natural gas exploration, which is what the XOP ETF is, this is a narrative of what? Well, as crude moves higher, XOP tends to do pretty well. Now, I think a lot of you might be asking, well, Rog, what's XOP? Well, this is the process. I'm giving you guys a little bit of insight into the actual playbook that we deploy, that we use in the Sector Secrets Mastery. Start with a broader narrative and then start to break it down, looking for that relative outperformance. Well, we're going to start off with names like this. These are the holdings within XOP. So once I like the narrative in sort of the touchstone market, if you will, crude, gas too, I can then look at XOP, XLE, OIH, and they're all going to be with a similar type narrative. These stocks generally benefit from stronger crude. So then what we'll do is we'll go back into searching what is inside XLE, OIH, and then find the relative outperformance. So Nick, yes, it is driving my plays in these oil-related ETFs. And yes, I still trade them on their charts merit. But, well, right back to that episode of the current issue, I should say, of the chart Countdown Trader, where we're not looking. Well, I broke down NASDAQ, right? We've broken down crude here. So it's really important to eliminate where we're not looking. And I guess, again, where am I not looking? I'm actually not looking broadly. Maybe XLE, OIH, and XOP, because they have been the hotter sectors, they're going to benefit from the inflationary environment that we're in, right? So what I want to do is know when I can look broadly, know when I've got to get a little bit more granular, but this is definitely a place we are looking. So thanks for the question. Can we take a look at QS? It's sideways. Look, I think if you're a breakout trader, and Kamal, if you're looking at a time frame other than the daily, this is for anybody here. If you're looking for a time frame other than the daily, let me know. But this kind of has the makings of more of a momentum setup, or it's a setup that would drive down to a 1 hour, maybe a 15-minute time frame, looking for either a shorter term trend continuation, a 1 hour breakout, or even a daily breakout. I'm not going to prioritize non-trending markets, right? So in my mind, trend or no trend. You guys remember deal or no deal? Trend or no trend? No trend. Not that we can't trade it. I think it's got to escape this little cluster of volume that's sitting there, but it's not something that I'm especially interested in at the moment. If it goes double green, if it starts showing trend instead of no trend, then perhaps. But remember, it could be a setup on a 1 hour or a 15-minute time frame. But for me, this is not going to be something that I will prioritize again, unless you've got some sort of breakout type setup that you like to focus on. All right, next question is, and yes, great reminder to learn about the mastery, which is happening today at 1:30. So if you want to join me live for what is part live trading, but really part workshop, boot camp, watch list building, come check out what we're doing at the Sector Secrets Mastery. And you can do that at simplertrading.com/sector. All right, next up, Maruf asks, could I review Bank of America and Disney? Sure, Bank of America and Disney. So not Bank of America, Boeing. Boeing and Disney. Do I like Boeing? I have financials on the brain, clearly, because the XLF has been in fuego. But Boeing, yeah, Boeing is definitely a name that we like. And then here's another thing you can do when you're looking at Boeing is, again, something we do often, is reverse search it. Where is Boeing active? ITA clearly comes to mind, of course, DIA, XLI. And then do we like Boeing on its own merits? Yes, we do. But then if we can even go further out, do I like IPA? I do. Do I like XLI? Absolutely. DIA, I prefer ITA or XLI, but Boeing is absolutely viable on the pullbacks. Now, is this a pullback? Probably an aggressive one. You've got a point of control there. You've got the 8 exponential moving average. You have an anchored VWAP. You've got a pretty interesting zone where we are right now between about 254 and 247. So we do think that would be a nice double green to keep an eye on. So what would we think then of DIS? DIS is in an interesting spot. The best part of the NAS right now is the XLC. The XLC is your strongest part of the NASDAQ. That's why I'm not interested broadly in the NAS and much more interested in the relative outperformers. And take a look. DIS is almost 4.5% of really one of the best sectors amongst a handful. It's one of the best sectors within the market. So do I like DIS? Yes. Do I like XLC? Sure. Remember that the tide, XLC, and the individual boat, albeit a big one, DIS, they're going to be simpatico, right? And so if that's the case, if the overall tide is moving higher and DIS is the boat within that tide, not only do I want to look at DIS, I want to be open to XLC and other names that are moving like DIS. So DIS is in a nice zone for a pullback buy. I would definitely keep an eye on it. But I would also keep an eye on XLC overall, because if XLC pulls back a little bit more, it could drag DIS with it, because as the tide goes out, if it were to, on XLC, DIS would be one of the components that is sold along with that broader ETF. However, if XLC is going to move higher, which it probably has, actually it is, and it will continue to, DIS is going to benefit from that rising tide. So we do like that one quite a bit. All right, so then next up in our questions is UTZ. You know, this is what this is what pretzels, Utz. The only thing I have an issue with is we're coming into this right after earnings. We've seen there's been major volatility before, but it's not a double green. I don't mind it. It's not a double green. It's in a nice zone of volume right there around 25.80 to 25.60. That's my zone. So would I be bullish? Trend or no trend? Borderline no trend because of this crazy volatility, but it's hard to say that I'm not bullish. I am bullish, right? So trend or no trend, bullish or bearish? No trend, but bullish on UTZ. If you take a look at platinum, I've been a big fan of platinum. Yeah, no doubt. So for those of you that are not aware of what platinum is, let me do it this way. So if you type in platinum, I'm on TradingView, it'll bring you up with a PL futures, All right. So we just want to take a look at PL. Go with the front month. And I think the front month on platinum, I thought it was May, but it may not be. Let me double check. Let's see. I'll have to. There we go. April. So if I'm looking at the April contract, which is the J contract, you pull this up as PLJ. And as you can see there, 2021. So do I like platinum? I do. I don't have a problem with platinum at all. I'd say borderline, though. I like palladium. I think it's, let's see. This is the great thing about these contracts. You gotta do a little bit of poking around. I'm trying to remember which contract we're in palladium. I like palladium as well. But here's the thing. In an overall reflationary environment, do we like the narrative around metals like this or these types of markets? Yeah, absolutely, I do. So I do two things. One, I want to know if the commodity is heading higher, and then I want to know what are platinum-related names. We did this with uranium. We like uranium. We like uranium-related stocks. I like crude oil. I like crude oil-related stocks. So you could see that connection. And platinum is definitely one that I like. I like it better than a lot of other metals, maybe not as much as, say, copper. And I like copper a whole lot better, but better structure. But they're all viable. So, Sharad, yeah, I like it. Thoughts on HP? Hey there, Deborah. So this is right back to our oil narrative, right, Deborah? This is right back to our oil narrative. So here's my challenge with oil. We just had that 6.6 sell-off, which was 3 times the daily price movement range, almost 3 times the 32% lower expectation move, massive move. I think crude's still trying to steady itself. So as much as there are a number of opportunities, Deborah, in a lot of oil stocks, the thing is, let's take a look at the calendar here, right? So we have about 10 days before OPEC. And if OPEC increases output, we could see another pullback in crude, which would create another pullback in these oil stocks. So we're stuck within a funny little window before the market starts to anticipate what, if anything, OPEC may do, since they did not choose to make a definitive statement about oil production, increase in output or not. This isn't about an increase in production cuts. This is not about withdrawing supply. This is more about increasing supply. And that could be a bearish temporary catalyst for crude. Overall, I think crude continues higher. Reflation, I mean, have you seen the price of the pump lately? I don't think that's going down anytime soon. However, the challenge is, how are we going to continue the path higher? How much volatility are we going to have to sit through? So time to load up on SLV and GLD. I don't look at the markets that way, Nikolai. If I'm going to, quote unquote, load up, I need a setup. And even then, I'm not going to load up. So I don't have a setup for a trade on the daily. It might be a different time frame. Of all the metals that I could pay attention to right now, gold and silver are way down near the bottom. Silver would be more of a priority than gold. Gold I have very little interest in because, gang, as long as bonds are heading lower, as long as real yields are heading higher, gold is not going to be able to get out of its own way. So it's really a real yield conversation. Gold is absolutely tethered to that real yield narrative, and you've got to keep an eye on the nominal yield of the bond minus the inflation rate, and boom, you've got your real yield. You don't have to calculate that on your own. There's plenty of sites that will calculate that real yield number for you. However, that's what you need to keep an eye on in gold. Silver, though, if you're going to do anything, getting a little bit more ambitious in silver, look at the chart of weekly silver. I just showed you the chart of weekly gold. So what I'm saying is your time horizon and your time frame is probably going to be different for this. This to me is a little bit more of an investment. This is more of my investing playbook. This is more of my portfolio playbook. This is my longer term time horizon playbook. So, but that's the way I would look at the two. And they are not tethered to one another, really, in that regard for me at all. Okay. Next up, I'm going to take one more question. And actually, I'll take 2. I have the volume. I have a couple different volume tools that I use, Marty. Yeah, and I'm always testing different code. Sometimes I'm creating code, but this is just volume profile. That's all that it is. I use volume profile a little bit differently because I look at look back and I stack different look backs. So it's classic volume profile, just the application is a little unique. So the last question for the morning is, which time frame is a priority for day traders? I can't speak for all day traders, but I know for me it's a 1-minute time frame to execute the trades, but the daily time frame to help determine my directional bias. And I think a lot of intraday traders don't spend enough time looking at the longer term time frames in the pre-market or in their preparation for their day of day trading. For me, it's just a morning of day trading. So I use 1 minute and only 1 minute, and I use a daily time frame to determine which direction that all my trades are going to be in. I'm always going to be long only or short only, depending upon the environment. So I don't spend some time decoding which chart to follow. I don't believe in multiple time frames because you run into exactly the problem you're running into. Do I enter on the 2, the 5, the 15, the 30, the 1? You just got to pick one time frame, look for the setups that you look for, and I have found the 1 minute is what does the job for me. All right. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't use other time frames. You certainly could, but they should then be benefiting from a different type of setup, longer trends, longer time horizon. For example, if I use a 15-minute, different time frame, different time horizon. Okay. All right, gang. As always, thanks for joining me for Charts and Coffee. Have a great morning. I've given you guys a heads up about the calendar that's coming up today and even through Wednesday. It's going to be a doozy. So keep an eye on that timing when these different Fed members are going to be speaking. And as a general rule, I don't like to be short in front of the most accommodative, dovish batch of central bankers that we've ever had, I think, in the U.S. So take that for what it will be. Keep an eye on the bond market. Bond markets are actually what's sort of trying to keep the Fed in check about their overly optimistic inflation overshooting narrative, and we'll see who emerges the victor. Keep an eye on bonds as the Fed is speaking, as any of the members are speaking. Have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow, or for a lot of you, I'll see you all in the Sector Secrets Mastery at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Simplertrading.com/sector. Be good to each other, gang.